So today, we're breaking down one of arguably the best known dance moves in all of history. I bet you your drunk uncle has whipped this out at the wedding once or twice, but this step's called the running man. Even though this step is not always done to its full justice, I utilize it a lot, and I think that it's a super helpful tool to have in your toolbox. And also, it's just a classic. So we're gonna go ahead and break that down today. So to me, the heart of the running man step really lies in the relationship between the upper body and the foundational rock that we find as we do the step, and also the pattern of the feet. Everything else to me is a little bit more of a stylistic choice. I think that there's some classic variations that you can do with your arms. However, I find that I play around with my arms a lot more than just doing them in one specific way when I do this step. We'll break down a basic variation for you guys and also try to give you some examples of different things that you can play around with as you do this step. This one's not too hard, and I think that y'all will be able to pick it up super quick, so let's just hop into it. For reference, we're gonna be utilizing y'all's right and left. Imagine you're doing this step and I'm your reflection in the mirror. So when you move your right leg, I move my right leg. So we're actually gonna start by facing this way. And my left leg should be facing you guys, and my right leg should be towards the back wall. For the running man, we're gonna find this sort of forward rock idea, as we do with many other hip hop steps. And this is really just gonna set us up for success and help us to not look as stiff when we do this step. If we just focus on the feet, it might make it look a little bit funny. So establishing this foundational rock at the beginning, I think will really help to make it look more cohesive. So we're gonna start by hopping onto our left foot, lifting up our right foot, and almost finding a bit of a rock back, or more of a prep, I'll say. So we're gonna find our prep on 6, 7, 8. We're gonna hop up on the and before the 1. This is a concept that we talk about a lot when we're breaking down these hip hop steps, but we don't begin directly on the 1 of an 8 count when we do this step. The basic idea that we need to understand today is that we're going to begin this step on the and before the 1 in the series of an 8 count. So if I count like this, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, and we're hopping on that and that's in between the 8 and the 1. So our prep, we find it on the and before the 1, and we're gonna find a rock forward, sending our right foot down to the floor and our left foot away from our right foot. So we have 6, 7, 8, and falling down on the 1. From here, we're gonna find the same exact pattern, but we're just gonna hop onto our right foot, lifting up our left knee to our chest and leaning back slightly with our upper body. And from here, we're prepped to fall down on the 2. 2, right foot should be shooting away from the left foot, chest should be forward. And then from here, the pattern just starts all over again. We hop up on the and to fall down on the 3. Hop up on the and to fall down on the 4. So starting from the top of the 8 count, we find 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Nice and easy. You can see how we're finding this steady rock with our upper body. Forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. Couple technical notes that I think just make this look better. As we're picking up our feet, lifting our knees to our chest, finding a nice flexed foot always looks cleaner to me and really just gives the step a nice complete line. So thinking about that I think is super helpful. And also just thinking about your dynamics, particularly in how high or how low you're bringing your knee. Now, I'm not gonna say that you have to bring your knee up to a certain degree. It has to be exactly 90 degrees for it to be correct. But I will say that I think it's good to find nice clean lines as you're doing this step. So whether that means you bring your knee up to a higher position or you leave it down low, just thinking about being clear and precise with the positions that you're creating with your body, especially as you're learning the step for the first time, just so you get the foundational and the underlying technique down so that then you can stylize it however you want. So that's the basic idea or the basic foot pattern that we're gonna play around with throughout the rest of this video. So we have 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8. So really, a simple way to think about the pattern of the feet is to just think about 2 positions. We think about our prep position here, nice flexed foot, thinking about our clean lines, and then our position 2 would be our fall as our back foot pushes away from our front and our weight shifts forward. Position 1, position 2. Position 1, position 2. So that's pretty much it for the feet pattern. Now we're gonna talk about the arms a little bit. Now the most classic variation that is done with these arms is this sort of out and in motion with the arms. Almost like you're pulling yourself forward and back as you do your rock with the upper body. So typically how this variation is done is in position 1, as we prep, our arms extend forward. And then as we fall forward, we almost create the illusion that our arms are pulling our chest forward as we fall. So we have 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. It is a fun variation. It does have a nice look to it, and it's just classic, and there's nothing wrong with it. So if you're still working on getting this foot pattern down, I think this is a great way to incorporate the arms, just as you're trying to figure out the feet placement and the weight distribution. It almost gives you a concept for what you're doing with the rest of your body, right? Like you're pulling yourself into the step. And if you're already feeling kind of comfortable with this foot pattern, then I have a couple other ideas that you can play around with as well. Now, some of you may have seen my video talking about concepts for arm placement and that sort of thing that I did a couple weeks ago. If not, I'll link it up here, and it'll also be down in the description. In that video, we basically just broke down a couple different ideas and concepts that you can utilize to build style with your arms. We're gonna pull from a couple different ideas that I talk about in that video to find some style along with this step. So one of the most common ideas that I'll play around with when it comes to my arms is sort of finding this slice motion as I'm doing this step. Really, the pattern that we're finding with the arms is a prep on our prepped position and a slice on our down position. You can prep it or finish it any way that you want. That's an idea that I personally utilize quite a bit. Playing around with this idea of slicing the arms. That idea also couples well with throwing, which is basically the same thing, just kind of changing the positioning of the hands or the intent behind your motion. So instead of finding a slice here, we find a little bit more of a throwing motion. So those two ideas alone give you a lot to play around with. As you're doing this step, you can move forward, catching something, throwing it, slicing it. All of these are ideas that you can play around with and just sort of experiment with to find what you like best. And then another idea that you can play around with as you do this step is this idea of gestures and hand placement. So when we talk about gestures, the easiest way to think about it is talking with your hands, communicating a point without saying anything, utilizing your hands to say what you want to say. And I think that there's a lot of room to play around with this idea when you're doing the running man specifically. You can play around with points, different ideas. Really just anything that helps you to communicate what you want to say. I don't know why, but for some reason, to me, that's what I like to do with this step specifically. Try not to get stuck in one specific variation of it. There's a lot of space that's allotted to the upper body as you're doing it, so it makes it easy to add in some layers of your own and to just experiment. Before we end this video, there's just a couple other ideas that I'd love to mention that you can play around with. Obviously, you don't have to just face one simple direction as you do this step. You can experiment with changing your direction, moving around in space. I'll experiment with doubles from time to time, thinking left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. Really, there's just a lot of room to play around with this step. I just encourage you to find your own style, your own approach. Just make the step your own. So that's pretty much it for this step. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Your support really does mean a lot to me. Hopefully this was clear for y'all. Be sure to check out the arm concepts video that I talked about earlier, linked down in the description. That'll definitely break down some of these arm ideas a little bit clearer. And yeah, I just want to thank you guys for your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.